Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Social Media Decoded podcast, the number one podcast to help you understand social media better so that you grow your business, get more clients, and monetize. And y'all know I get excited every single time that I have a special guest. And lately, I've been having guests that I've obviously met off the internet, right? So I met our special guest, Jasmine, on Facebook. So look, I always tell you to utilize these platforms. So make sure you're doing that. Jasmine, welcome to the Social Media Decoded podcast. I am so excited to chat today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Yes, so we're going to chat today about e-commerce, mass retail, and all the things. So could you let the listeners know, give us a little bit about your background and how you got started with e-commerce and all the amazing things?
Yeah. So, hello, everyone listening, watching, whatever you're doing. Jasmine Bowdry here, a retail strategist and consultant. And so, my background, how I got into this retail and e-commerce world, by education and by trade, if you will. So, my degree is in retail buying and merchandising, and then my corporate career background, a majority of that, about 15 years as a corporate retail a buyer, managing online and brick and mortar store assortments. So um yeah, and I launched my own e-commerce brand in 2016. So, I understand it from a corporate side, but then also from the eyes of being an entrepreneur trying to launch or scale a product-based business. So, yeah.
Yes, no, that's a lot of experience, girl. And I'm like, I always bring the experts so y'all know years and years of experience is going to come out of
Yes.
this conversation. So make sure
Yes.
that you get your pens and notepads ready. So I want to dive into mass retail because there's a lot of people that want to go into retail. And
Mhm.
now I come from a background working for, beauty and hair care. So I know all about this retail. And so when
Yes.
entering retail, it's a whole different ballgame, right? And so what are some of the challenges that you have helped your clients with or that you have seen in the marketplace and how can they be overcome? How can we overcome those?
So I would say some of the biggest challenges as it relates to product-based business owners trying to get into mass retail is, like it's like a nod to say, I'm in Target, I'm in Walmart, I'm, in this, whatever the retailer is, I'm in Nordstrom's, right? It's like this cool thing to say, but the biggest challenge or the biggest opportunity that I've noticed with product-based businesses is that they just really aren't ready to to be at that to play at that level yet. And I think it's like where you get kind of bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at the thought, but you don't necessarily understand um all that is required to go into a mass retail. And so most of the challenges are inventory constraints. So they don't actually have the inventory to fulfill a large quantity PO purchase order from, a mass retailer like a Walmart or Target. Two, perhaps they do have the inventory, but they don't have the relationship with their manufacturers or who's ever going to fulfill it to actually ship these orders in time. So, then it becomes where product is delayed and, you kind of have one shot to really get it right when you are new to going into retail. And so when you're delayed on product, that could potentially be a fine for a brand. Additionally, one of the challenges that I see is they don't understand like the logistical process. So they don't understand like having SKUs or having like UPCs set up. So let's say, I'm selling a shampoo. That shampoo needs to have a UPC code. And then let's say you are shipping it to a Target and your it's boxed in six. So six 6 of those units of shampoos go into a box. So then that is called an inner UPC, which is another UPC. And then you can't just ship Target 6 units, right? So let's say they order, whatever the pallet size is. So let's say, that's a 100 and something or 300, whatever that number is, then that usually goes on a pallet. So then there's a pallet UPC. And so most brands don't have those UPC set up, or they don't set them up correctly, which then results in more fines. And these retailers have no problem. They don't care that you are a small brand. Like, you will still get hit with the fine if you do it wrong. And so I think that, to kind of wrap it up, is that most just aren't prepared for the process to go into retail. I think that there's like an educational piece that's missing with all of the technical parts of going onto shelf.
Whew. That was a whole masterclass that you just gave just on SKUs and UPCs. So I hope that you all are taking notes, because while, yes, we want to go into retail and it's exciting to be in Target and Walmart and Meijer and all these places, you definitely have to do your research when it comes to the things that you should be prepared for. And this goes for any kind of product-based brand, because everything as a UPC is going to be in a box, is going to be shipped. It has certain sizes for everything.
It has to be scanned in the store. So exactly.
Yeah. Whew, okay, so if you think
about doing some of those things, that like you can set up, you can create SKUs within your Shopify store. So it's, so many brands, like I can go on the back end and it's, there are no SKUs attached. They don't have any type of product hierarchy or classifications. Like these are things that you can start to do now to start getting yourself ready for retail.
So the thing I'm hearing is start preparing yourself now if you're thinking about retail. So this is 2023, you're listening to this, prepare now if you're thinking about this for 2024. And that leads us to the next question too. For someone new to e-commerce, and e-commerce is a huge thing. I know you talked about Shopify. There's so many different commerce websites, BigCommerce, Shopify, whichever one works for you, right? But what are some things to consider when setting up an online store? How can we optimize this? Because I know that's important, and we want to be searchable too, but we also want, everything to be optimized on our site. So what are some tips for anyone new setting up e-commerce? Things to consider.
Well, definitely set up on Shopify. That's going to be the first tip. I don't care what anybody tell you. Because like Shopify was built for e-commerce brands. And so all of these other platforms, kind of made additions to be able to, have an e-commerce segment on their platforms. But Shopify was created for e-commerce. And so just all of the tools, all of the integrations that they have that really allow you to grow your business seamlessly is why I always advocate for a new brand to start on a Shopify. In terms of ways to really optimize your site, like just really being intentional, put yourself in the seat of a consumer. What is the journey that you're actually taking them to? So you have about less than 2 seconds to really grab a customer's attention before they bounce off of your website. And so the biggest problem I usually see is on the home page, the main, what we call like header image. It doesn't really tell a story. So that is like prime real estate to really showcase your brand, your product, what you stand for, and then giving them a call to action right within that space. So before they decide that they're even going to scroll down, does your website even capture, my attention to stay? And then making sure that however your website is set up on a laptop or a computer, that your mobile looks the exact same. So this really isn't an issue with Shopify. In some cases you might have to scale down, your image to fit mobile, to be mobile, to have mobile optimization. But, I know so many people that you can go on their website on your phone and you can't even see the image, or it's cut off, it's choppy. So just making sure that you have consistency across your website as your homepage, your website in terms of laptop, but then also on mobile as well.
Oh, good gems are being dropped. Again, I hope y'all taking notes. Make sure you tag me on Instagram at Michelle L. Thames and let me know, what are you thinking? What are you thinking about e-commerce? Are you feeling great about, wanting to go into retail? Are you learning something new that you probably didn't know? I bet you're learning something new that you probably didn't know, because retail, it can be a lot. We're not trying to scare you here. We're just providing you with the resources, okay, that you need. And that I want to talk about social media. This is the next question, because whoa, I know that social media and marketing play a huge role in growing a business from, we want to say the ground up, but everything is from like the ground up, right? I don't think nothing is right. So what are some things, like tips or tricks, that you have in your bag, your Jasmine bag, that our listeners can implement today when it comes to e-commerce and retail?
So I think just in this day, in this time, relationship marketing is really important. I think that a lot of new brands come out the gate thinking that they are a Zara, thinking that they are a Macy's, thinking that, they are a Nike, in which these brands don't have to showcase who the founder is. The founder doesn't have to like hop on a live. The founder doesn't have to like make that connection. But unfortunately, Booz, you are not. You are not there yet. And so you have to show up. Like, you have to show up. You have to show your face. You really have to build that connection with your audience. You really have to cultivate that community within your brand. So, I'm not saying you have to go live every day, but commit to what you actually can do, and have consistency within that. So, can you go live, once a week for a wind down Wednesday where you're just on live drinking wine and talking to your audience? If you can't do once a week, can you do twice a month? Can you do monthly? Like, whatever that consistency looks like for you in this stage in your life and in your business, just show up, for that. Make sure you are replying and engaging with comments. So don't just leave, little basic emojis, like actually say something back, to the people that are engaging with your content. Ask questions in your stories, like bring them into the process. So if you are a clothing boutique, ask them their feedback on styles that you're potentially, bringing in. If you are a beauty brand, hey, do you like this new, we got 5 new lip colors we're thinking of, here are 5 swatches. What do you guys think about that? So just really bringing your audience into the journey, I think is super important.
Are there any brands that you have seen done that really well? Like any brands that you may follow that do this like really well that you can shout out?
Absolutely. So I think the Lip Bar does this really well with their makeup. I think that they have a strong, just engaged community that, will buy whatever they drop. Anything. Mia Ray, I think I'm from Michigan. I'm shouting out all the Detroit brands, but Mia Ray, I think, has another extremely engaged community. Like, she has really cultivated that relationship. She does really, really well with bringing them along the journey with, sharing her truth, sharing, what's happening in her life and her business. So they eat everything she drops, up. So I think those would be 2 that just really just come top of mind. I think who else? It's quite a few, but I would say those are the top 2 that really just, when I think of like who has this super engaged community, that's really just down down for whatever. Um, those 2, absolutely.
Yes, definitely the Lip Bar. They out here, okay? I love their social media. I think that the founder has done a great job, like showcasing the brand and showing like how the brand was created and everything.
Yep. And if you notice, like, Melissa's not in like all the ad, like she's not, it's like she pops in, right? It's like that she's the founder, but she's not. So I feel like, it's important to understand, but when she was building it, she was. So there will eventually hopefully get to a point where you're not having to do as much with being the face, but I think it's still, even with that, she still shows up every now and then. She's still in like campaigns every now and then. You'll see her when there's usually a new launch. She will do lives to kind of talk about it and share the process. So
Yes. Make sure y'all follow Lip Bar. Shout out to them. I do love their Instagram and their social media. And like you said, I think they do
absolutely,
a very great job to build community, because that's what it's all about. It's about the community.
it really
So
is. Yes.
yes. So this part is one of my favorite parts of the podcast, which is the book or podcast section. And so were there any books maybe related to retail or, or not, but that have helped you along your journey that you want to share with the listeners here today? Because we're avid readers.
Yes, definitely books. So I love Atomic Habits by James Clear. I think that is just not even just business, a great business book, but just your personal life in terms of creating and establishing daily habits. I would say Believe Bigger by Marshawn Evans Daniels is one of my favorite ones. We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers is another one. In terms of like podcasts, so Shopify has a podcast, so I definitely listen and tune in to the Shopify podcast. It's really good for just insights and kind of what's going on in the e-commerce world. How I Built This is another podcast that I like, where it's primarily, a majority of them, I would say, are product-based business owners. But you really just get the story of how some of these brands were founded and kind of what their journey was to where they are today.
Oh, those are some good ones. And I had no idea about this Shopify podcast. So I'm definitely about to be tapping into that. Does Clavio have a podcast? So I'm going to listen to that too if they did. They might. Clavio, I'm going to look it up and see, because those are the podcasts that I need to listen to. Okay. Clavio and Shopify is like, those are the things. So
yes,
thank you for
are
sharing
definitely
those.
the tools. Those definitely the tools for e-commerce.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So this has been such a great episode, and you dropped so many gems. OMG, you guys have to go back and pick them up, write you some notes, because now you have new tools and resources when it comes to retail and how you should approach this, the things that you should know. And I'm sure that there's more things that you can find out as well. But before we head out, could you definitely let the listeners know where can we find you online, and if we want to reach out to learn more about retail and working with you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on all the socials at Jasmene Bowdry. It's JasmeneBowdry. My website is jasmenebowdry.com. And if you actually go to my Instagram, the link in my bio, there is a free checklist called Before the Pitch. And so that is really a step-by-step of before you want to pitch to a retail buyer. So before there's even get into retail, you have to talk to the buyer, to build that relationship. So there's a free checklist before the pitch that you can go there and download, so you can just start preparing yourself for some of those tips to start really getting ready for retail.
Yes, and thank you so much. We'll make sure to put all of that in the show notes so y'all can check that out. And that pitch, look, that sounds real good. You might want to go get that, because it will change the game for you, I'm sure. It's such a great resource. Thank you so much, Jasmine,
Thank
for the
you.
time today and sharing all the
Absolutely.
gems with our guests. And we will talk to y'all in the next one. Peace.